this part done, they call for you to drill. There was 2 holes already here, and you have to use a 1/2-inch drill bit to drill through, and then also through here. And this one right here is going to be the horn relocation bracket's going to go in here. And I had to buy a 1/2-inch drill bit because I didn't have one. Also, my kit came with 2 of the nut rivets, and so I bought a bag on Amazon of these, made in China. Now, in order to install it, I used this bolt came from my serpentine tensioner. I took one of those off, and let's see, which one was it? It was the one that held on, let's see, the bottom part of the tensioner, like the spring part. So I used that bolt, and what I did is I put on one of the, oops, I also bought some of these nuts over at Lowe's. So I put the washer down, the nut, and then I put the bolt through. And when you put the bolt through, it's hard to do here. I'll show you. Down till you get to the bolt, or I'm sorry, the nut. And then once you get there, it's a 13 that I have. I used a 13 socket and then a 13 wrench, and I wrenched it down so that the nut moves down the bolt, and installed the rivets that way. I've seen that done on a lot of YouTube videos, so I gave it a try, and it worked out pretty good. So that rivet's really in there. That was the one that I bought. And really, the ones that I bought for the 1/2-inch hole are better. This is the one that came with the Whipple kit. It kind of pushed out, not great. And this one, this one, let's not talk about that guy. It's a little ugly, but it's gonna work. Now I can get the horn relocated bracket on, and the water exchange, and get the plumbing going. But that right there, that took a while to figure out. So I'm running my plumbing, my lines, and I got everything, like all the hoses are almost all ready to go, and I'm gonna bolt up this. And what I notice is the nut insert fell in. The threaded part fell in. Obviously the nut insert metal part is still there. And now, if you can see in there, there it is. It's way in there. I'm gonna have to fish them out with this guy. I wonder if I'll get it. I can't put the light in there while I'm recording. Success! Wow, that's some skills right there. All right, so I got that all squared away. Ran some lines, some hoses that they tell you to run. Zip tied up some things to make sure that it's holding up pretty well. Hoses ran down here, everything's buttoned up decently down there. I didn't put radiator fans in yet because I'm waiting on the tensioner. I did put the other pulleys on. And now I'm gonna do spark plugs and spark plug wires. I went MSD, and I forget the heat range. Oh, okay, 11. And I was told not to gap them, so we'll see how it goes. Also, I didn't see anywhere on the internet anybody talking about using their DSX kit with their Whipple on a 6th gen Camaro. That line back there, that fuel line, I was trying not to break it. I'm bending it so it's along the backside of the engine, and using those 90 degrees on the system to just customize my own fuel line, because I don't want to disconnect it. I do want to run E85 based on the fuel system upgrades and things like that. Should be good. But really, I'm just reaching up in there and slightly bending it and just praying that it doesn't break. What we're gonna do is, that socket down there is a 5/8, and it has that rubber, and it's a deep 5/8, so like basically spark plug puller. And what you do is you set it in there, and it's hard to get your socket or anything really in there to loosen or tighten that. So I just set it up like that, and then I use a 3/4 wrench, and then I use the head of the socket, and I go in there and you can loosen or tighten it that way. All right, that's the inside of the supercharger. Pretty cool. Ah, man, I just made a big mistake. So I saw the 96, and instead of the inches, I just saw the 96. I was like, wow, it's just got to be by pounds. So I set it to 96 on my torque wrench, and what you get is right here, that bolt right here, the evap solenoid bolt broke off in the supercharger. Not happy right now. Totally my fault. So I went to the dealership and luckily they had my bolt. And I'm about to show you how much is inside of that supercharger. About half of it. It's unreal. So I got some of this stuff, the extractors, drill and tap, and hopefully get that baby out of there. So what we're gonna do right now is pray to sweet baby Jesus, dear 8 pound 6 ounce baby Jesus, help me get this bolt out of there. Come on, baby. Hey guys, I totally wussed out on getting that bolt out. I didn't want to risk it. I don't think the bits that I got were the best quality and they could break off in there. So I ended up going over to Henderson Chevy and seeing what they said, and my guys over there, they were able to get it out for me. Really appreciate you if you guys watch it at all, but it was a lifesaver, man. There it is right there. I'm just like speechless right now. I'm so excited so I can get back to work on this thing. Here's the bolt right here. They were able to get it out for me and just saved me big time. All right, I got the new serpentine belt or tensioner came in, and I just got that on, and I picked up the serpentine belt tensioner tool. Oh my God, you gotta have one of these if you're gonna do the belt. You put it on the pulley, you crank it, it relieves the tension, and you can just pretty much just put the belt on exactly how you want it on the ribs. And life is easy. When you try to do like shortcuts and stuff like that, no bueno. That's how I ended up breaking that guy over there. So things are starting to move back along. Yay! So something to take note of, I'm not sure if the fitment is supposed to be like that on the evap. I'm guessing that's how it's supposed to be. The rubber seal is in there. Now, they tell you to use the stock bolt. Okay, that's the stock bolt. Now, it does come with one washer on it, but what the tech told me at Henderson Chevy is that it was just a little too long. So this bolt actually will bottom out into that hole on the supercharger. So he said just either cut the bolt a little or add a spacer. So I went the easy route. I'm adding an additional spacer just so that the bolt is not bottoming out and I don't break it off in there again. Did learn from the last time, so we're not gonna go as tight. I said we are not gonna go that tight. It's hard not to say that. It's just me working on it. There's no we involved. All right, here goes something that I ran into. It calls in the instructions for copper 6mm spacers or washers. And I went to the hardware store because it wasn't in my kit. I went to the hardware store and got 1/4. And on the back, on some of these, it's just, they're too wide. So the copper 1/4 are just not gonna work. And I found in the forums that somebody said they switched to O-rings. And I guess what? I found in the kit 10 O-rings that are gonna fit. So that's a big note right there. Those are not copper washers anymore. They switched over to O-rings, and it is included in my kit. But it took me like a day of searching. None of my hardware stores around me locally had anything in copper for metric. So all right, so cruising ahead a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to go over everything, but just some stuff that I had to switch up and customize or whatever. The elbow or whatever you want to call it for one of these hoses, it just was like, it put that hose at a weird angle, and it was pinching the hose. So I just used a razor blade and cut it to length here, so it's gonna fit perfect. But things are coming along. Also, the hose for the brake boost that they supplied was like ended like here, so I had to use one of their other hoses that they supplied, and that worked out well. But then that left me on the other side, the hose that connects to the breather hose that goes for the intake to, let's see, on mine it is the third, it's hard to see, it's dark in there, it's the third connector in there that wire's in the way, that one, you see it right there. The third connector is where that breather hose has to go. Now in the pictures it shows that it goes to the middle, but they must have maybe changed it for the 2019, because the middle one is the, let's see, not the evap, but it's like a breather hose that goes all the way around the backside of the engine to the driver's side valve cover. So that's what I'm looking at right now, and honestly it could be wrong. That's some of the things that I'm worried about on first startup. A lot could go wrong, so fingers crossed. I'm getting close to starting her up. I'm gonna see if it ends up working out for me, but I needed a longer tube, so I just went to a local auto store, and I think it's close to 3/8 the hose size, and they give you in the RotoFab Big Gulp some different endings, so I'm sure one of those will work. And then I'm gonna snag one of these fittings off of the stock line, that 90-degree right there, and put it on this, and hopefully it all works out. So what I mean by salvaging one of the clips, I don't know where, yeah. So I used a razor blade and cut down this. So like say this is connected, I just used a razor blade and made a line and then just took it off of that connector. But I did that with the 90-degree from one of my old lines. Where is it? Okay, so right here. And it fit in there perfect. So I'm gonna run this hose to the intake, and I'm gonna cut it to size and get it all fitted up. All right, so the flow tie has like housing that sticks out, and it bumps into that, so you can't seat the bumper on correctly. Probably is not an issue with 2016, the 18s, but the water cooler tank or exchange tank bumps into that piece. I already took this part out of the front bumper just to make, it wasn't even close with this end. And I'm also now gonna have to cut that. See that lip, right? I'm using my other hand to hold this piece. This lip right here, I'm gonna have to cut that down to make room for this guy. All right, so I filed that all down with the Dremel. I'm gonna clear it out in a second, just clean it up. And then I wanted to, because if you leave the flow tie open, rocks and stuff like that are gonna hit this tank, and it is plastic, so eventually it'll probably bust a hole through it. So I used the intake manifold cover and cut a hole in that and got it all lined up there. I'm probably gonna put some double-sided tape on there so that when I put the bumper on, that it sticks between here and that flow tie, just as a barrier. I know that that's probably gonna get beat up by the elements, but I'd rather have that get tore up instead of that tank. And I think eventually I'll probably do something different with the bumper anyway, so, or maybe come up with a block off or something more permanent than that later on. But I think that'll do.